Good evening. I'm Kelly Wright. Thanks for joining me as we spend the next hour together. I do hope you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. My opening observation tonight, I've stated it before on this program, how Dr. King once stated, the ultimate measure of a person is not where they stand in moments of convenience, but where they stand in moments of challenge, moments of great crisis and controversy. And certainly, we can all find ourselves standing in moments of controversy and challenge. And certainly, one young man known as O'Shea Jackson, or better known as Ice Cube, is standing in a moment of challenge and controversy for his stand on making a contract with Black America and putting it out there before President Trump, as well as former Vice President Joe Biden, allowing both sides, as well as members of Congress, to look at this brilliant contract for Black America and to decide if they will show enough leadership to do the right thing. Now, I should make the point that Ice Cube is not aligned to the president. He's not aligned to Joe Biden. He's not aligned to any particular party. He's aligned to the American people and leaders stepping up to do the right thing. And he's aligned to Black America becoming stronger and better and greater. And those are my opening observations. So joining me now is the man who's in the center of, I guess, some firestorm from the critics, yet he's really here to talk about what he's really striving to do. He's Ice Cube. And welcome to the program. It's good to have you. Look, you are tantamount to all things hip hop. People respect you. They've got mad love for you. I know I certainly do. And
Thank you.
and yet you're coming up against a firestorm of controversy from fellow Black Americans who don't understand what you were really proposing to President Donald Trump, as well as to Vice President Joe Biden. Tell me about how you're responding to the critics.
Well, I'm good. I'm used to it throughout my career. I've always been able to, take the shots and stand on truth. With this contract with Black America is something that I seen that was very necessary. I was surprised and shocked that it was no document out there like that already, with so many people we've had, in the political space. So, I took it upon myself, got with a lot of smart people to create this document called the Contract with Black America. And it's a broad document that deals with things that we can do in this country to close the enormous wealth gap between Black and white families and people in this country. And so it's a broad document that deals with not only the public sector, which is government, but the private sector, because we believe there's a lot of cookie jar companies out there that we call them cookie jar companies, because when we catch you with your hand in the cookie jar after we look through your history, you should really be willing to fix that history, so to speak. So we have a lot of work to do. So putting this out, and I just want to kind of get to how I was contacted by both parties. But putting this out, I had welcomed anybody who could help me make this a reality. And so the Democratic Party reached out. I met with them and talked with them. They definitely invited me to continue to push and fight for things that's in the contract with Black America when they win. But we was also contacted by the Trump campaign. Now, these are people that's in power right now.
Right.
And they said, we have a plan. It's a little weak. Do you mind if we take some things from your contract with Black America and put into our plan? Now, I have some great ideas in the contract with Black America. So, of course, I don't mind if anybody in any position of power take this run with it, try to implement it any way, shape, or form. But when they said, well, we'd like to talk to you, to me, that's something I had to do, because for them to just look at this paper and not hear the history and the pain and suffering behind our people here in America and why we need this so very badly, to me was a missed opportunity that I had to take, not for me, but for our community and the people I'm fighting for in this contract.
And, you also took it to Biden, and his people said, well, let's talk about it after the election. The Congressional Black Caucus took some of it to introduce, but Mitch McConnell in the Senate is sitting on that, the Republican Senate. But then to the Trump campaign, to your point, they saw what you had and they said, well, look, we can work with this. And so they've stepped out to do that. And then one of Trump's aides on the campaign trail, Katrina Pearson, put your name out there and say that you were working with the Trump campaign. But what you're really doing is presenting something to the Trump campaign, people in power, about how do you effectuate change in the hood, in our
Yeah,
Black community.
without a doubt. I think we're caught under a lot of words that we think mean Black, like minority and diversity, people of color. That's not necessarily meaning that the lion's share of those programs go to Black people.
Right.
Calling ourselves minority, we're in line with white women. We're in line with even gay white men. So we're adding a lot of people on top of our grievance. And it's hard to kind of, fight our way to the top. We only get 2% of these programs.
Yeah.
So we need to start naming these programs specifically Black or for descendants of slaves. ADOS is a word that's in the lexicon right now. American descendants of slaves. We got to figure out a way to pinpoint and get this money in the hands of Black families, Black business, Black people who want to start a business, because Black people are going to hire other Black people, and that's how the dollars get recycled. So I'll talk to anybody who's willing to push this program forward.
I'm talking to Ice Cube. We'll be back with more after this. And realistically, that makes sense, because we should be willing to talk to anyone who will really get behind what you're proposing with this contract for Black America. Furthermore, Biden should have been talking to you today, yesterday, and what you're really coming up against. I know you don't have a trust for either campaign, but you tweeted something out that was very important. You said every side is the dark side for us here in America. They're all the same until something changes for us. They all lie and they all cheat, but we can't afford not to negotiate with whoever is in power, or our condition in this country will never change. That's what you're seeking to do. And you went on to say our justice is bipartisan.
Without a doubt. We have to make it a bipartisan issue. It's up to us. And people are saying, Cube, your timing is terrible. I mean, we're about to go into election. All this happened after George Floyd death, when the country realized that it had a wound that was open and bleeding and needed to be healed. And so the timing couldn't be better to try to do something big, because now you force candidates who were basically either the Democrats were putting Black people in their back pocket saying, well, we got this. Republicans were saying, no need to look that way. And nobody was continuing to address our needs, continuing to try to heal our problems. They were on to the next. It was off to get new voters. I was actually told that now everybody's going after the suburban white woman vote. So we had to do things to shake this up and make sure people are still paying attention to our problems and our needs, not only, you know, up until the election, but we got to press them after election.
Right.
But we got to be able to talk to whoever's in power, because we actually don't know who's going to win. You know, Biden could win the public vote and the popular vote, and it could be some crazy shenanigans with the electoral college, and this could be a mess. And we could look up, and Donald Trump could still be in power. So we got to leave the channels open, because both parties need to look to solve this problem like they would do with the debt ceiling, or they would do with military spending, or national, disaster. This is a national disaster. This is, something that the whole country has to come together and fix, or we're always going to have this turmoil in the street, throughout this election and after the election. No matter who's the president, people will still be in the streets if we don't solve this.
We'll be back with more after this. Let me go to a point that you've stated in your contract with Black America, because that's the issue that you're really talking about. And it goes on to state, this contract with Black America strikes at the heart of racism and presents a blueprint to achieve racial economic justice. And as you've pointed out earlier, it was written in the backdrop of the killing of George Floyd, which set off a wave of protests, as you've talked about already, in the streets, not seen since civil rights of the 1950s and 1960s. And you're saying, time out, it's time to make a change. And you stated earlier that you're tired of seeing America stand on top of Black folk.
Without a doubt. When we were, first fighting for our freedom, and then fighting Jim Crow and segregation, we were fighting really against the top half of the country, 30% white people, to let us exercise our freedom and rights in this country. Well, we got the 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment, and 15th Amendment. We got those passed and through, and those were specifically designed to help Black people catch up and gain ground in this country. But once we started to fight in the 60s and called ourselves minorities, now we're putting ourselves under 70% of people, and then you add the 30% on top. Now we're trying to fight for our rights through everybody. And nobody like us, so we've been getting the short end of every stick. And so now we only get 2% of those programs. So we have to shake ourselves of these names, and we have to identify ourselves exactly who we are. And we got to say, hey, this debt has not been paid. There's still a balance due.
Which is why in your 22-page contract, you're calling, actually you've listed several demands, including reparations and affirmative action for all secondary schools, public and private universities, so that Black enrollment exceeds the percentage of America's Black population. You're also talking about police reform, which are all important things that Black Lives Matter has been talking about, except you actually put together a policy plan and put it in front of President Trump, as well as in front of Joe Biden, and as well as Congress. And it's time for them to act. That's it, pure and simple.
Pure and simple. We know this is a major problem staring the whole country in the face, and everybody is working on things that need to be worked on. There's a lot of energy going into police reform, justice reform, which I appreciate. But nothing is going to change until we have some economic reform.
Exactly.
We're just going to be, still going to jail, but they just won't beat us up before they take us. So we got to get in a position where we have some say so in this country, not just in the political arena, because we all know when you don't have no money, you just talking. Okay. And anywhere in America, we living in a capitalistic society, and we have to realize that and realize we have to get our hands on capital to have say so for things to really stick, land, and continue for our children and their children. So until we have, the right capital, there's 13, we're 13.5% of this country, give or take, but we own 0.5% of the wealth. So there's almost 14% of people, almost 30 million Black people living off 0.5%. So there's no path for survival. We won't last another 100 years until we bring that wealth gap. I mean, at least we should at least have at least 13% of this country or more for our contribution. So it's a lot of debts that need to be paid. And we just got to make sure, no matter who's in office, that they start to pay them.
My conversation with Ice Cube continues after the break. You have zeroed in on the pain that Black America feels, especially in the midst of this pandemic, wherein we've seen the ugliness of racism as well, compounding that. We've seen that Black Americans are disproportionately dying. Their mortality rate is 2 times, 3 times greater than whites because of this coronavirus. But we've also seen the economic disparity and health disparity. I got to ask you, when you look at the landscape of Black America personally, and knowing how you came up against so much, and actually you were able to write about it, talk about it, rap about it, act about it. But what goes through you? You're a father, you're a brother, you care about people. What goes through you when you see that things have not changed? If anything, they've gotten worse.
I mean, scared to death for my people, family. When I say my people, everybody like, oh man, Black. No, I got family, cousins, relatives, all through the hood, throughout this United States. So everybody wasn't as fortunate enough to be Ice Cube. So this is who I'm fighting for. And I see that, when you look and you pull the covers back and you look behind these policies and you look how they're implemented, there's an evil tenor to it. You know what I mean? There's a ominous overtone to how things are being implemented to make sure that we don't get nothing. I mean, there's a system in place in a lot of areas in this country that are designed to make sure we fail. And if we fail, we're going to go to the streets. Once we go to the streets, we're either being funneled to the jailhouse or to the grave, or drugs get us. So it's a thing where we have to remove the incentive to do us like that. We have to expose the corporations and the collusion that happens that makes us end up in this condition, that perpetuates this condition, that prevents us from ever getting out of this condition. It's that bad. So it has to be dismantled and restructured, to be watchdogged, it has to be regulated, and it has to be fair. And it's not. That's why we're losing. We're not losing because we can't pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. We got professionals everywhere. we don't have no boots. That's what we got to realize.
You know, that's a very good point because we have professionals everywhere in sports and entertainment and politics and business. We have great accomplishments, and I know that you support Black History 365 curriculum being introduced. I mean, it's operating in Texas. It should be operating all across this land to remind people and to wake up others that we have made significant accomplishments and contributions despite the odds that have been stacked against us.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to know where you come from because you can really kind of see where you're going and tell the truth. Until this country has a reckoning with the truth, it's going to continue to be a lie. So we have to figure that out through education, of course. And as our own people, we got to understand that we're living in a capitalistic society, and it's very imperative that we learn how to function and we learn how to prosper in this system that we find ourselves in. And it's about learning how to use the system to your benefit. And so we have to educate ourselves outside of school because, of course, they're not going to teach you how to be a boss. They're going to teach you how to be a worker. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being a worker, but you should also know how to be a boss just in case you lose your job. You should know how to start your own thing, even if it's small, even if it's around the neighborhood, even if whatever it is, you should know how to keep a business going no matter how small or big it is. And we just don't learn those things in the regular schools that we have. Sometimes we got to teach ourselves.
We'll be back with more after this. Getting back to the politics of all of this, you did not speak directly to President Trump, but you spoke, or at least your representative spoke to his people, as well as to Joe Biden. What's your message to both of the men who are running for the presidency of this country? What's your message to them based on the standpoint that you are representing Black America and you're saying enough is enough? You will do right by us because one, you owe us for helping to build this country. And two, it's the right thing to do. And it has to be done, not yesterday, but now.
Yeah, what I would say to them, and I don't pretend to speak for all Black people. Anybody can step up and speak and say and talk and do whatever they think need to be done. But for the most part, what I would say is, the Black people in this country will never stop until we get true justice and freedom. And you will continue to have a country that has problems and will not get any rest until men like you do what it takes to give us justice on all levels in this country. So you can pretend that you got a country that is rolling smooth and is the most powerful country in the world, but at the end of the day, your country is coming apart at the seams, and it will continue to happen until you do right by us.
And to Black America, look, we're not monolithic. Some of us are conservative, we're liberal, we're independent, we're Republican, we're Democrat, we're all over the map. We're all of different faiths. But when you get criticisms from people within the Black community who don't understand what you're trying to do, which is to lift us all up, and then you get support as well, what would be your message to Black America here and now?
If you've always believed in who I am, just kick back a minute and just watch what I'm doing. The thing is, I'm not trying to mess nothing up, but I am trying to shake it up. And it has to be shooken up. We can't go with business as usual. After this election, we can't be in the streets jumping up and down with all 32 teeth showing. We have to be back at these politicians saying, I got you in. What you gonna do on the first day? Okay, you didn't get it done. What you gonna do on the second day? Okay, you didn't get it done. What you doing on the third day? I mean, it has to be relentless pressure to get these politicians to even follow through on what they promised. I don't believe none of them, but you still got to hold them to what they said to the world. They're not just saying it to me, said it to the world. Got to hold them to it. That's our only power. And we should use it every day.
Ice Cube, I want to thank you for being on the program. I know we could talk a lot longer, but I appreciate the fact that you've have stepped out in faith to say to both of these candidates and to both parties, do the right thing. It's never too late and it's never wrong to do the right thing. That takes a lot of courage because you could stay in Hollywood and enjoy your millions, but instead you're saying, no, let me help some millions of people, Black Americans, get up on the good foot and stand strong. And to that end, the country has to come together. And so you've put us, in my opinion, you've put us in a position where we can have a seat at the table to keep the pressure going and to demand justice and to demand the peace, even to a president who keeps talking about law and order.
No matter who's the president, we have to put the gas on and we have to pressure that president to do the right thing by us. We can't just pretend like we're on somebody's team. And if they don't win, we just hang out till they win. And then we hope they do something. We got to say, no matter who get in there, we're going to be in your face, friend or foe.
I urge everyone watching this right now, the interview that you and I are having, or the conversation that we're having about our people, Black people, and how once Black people are lifted up, it lifts up the entire American dream, I believe. But I urge everyone to go to the website and read the contract with Black America. It is a really significant step forward in reminding and urging people to do the right thing. And I want to thank you for being on the program. I know some time ago you wrote a song called "Arrest the President," and so it shocked people that you were now aligned with a platinum plan, that the president adopted some of your plan, $500 billion. But it says a lot about your integrity to get the right thing done against all odds.
Yeah, the word align might be a little strong. It's what I've always done. I do something fresh and people borrow from it here and there and make their own thing out of it. Same thing. I did this contract with Black America. It was great. They realized that they was lacking in theirs, took some things from that. But, to me, the contract with Black America is the plan and it needs to be implemented. And people could take pieces here and there, but I ain't gonna stop till this whole thing is implemented across the board. So, that's the extent of it. And I'll work with anybody that's down to help us. I'm done playing these games.
Yeah, game time is over. We can play and watch sports, but this is about life and death. So I appreciate you coming on and making it real, making it plain, and the sincerity of what you're doing. And again, I commend you for putting this together. You've got a whole lot of people there working with you. This is a platform that you can always utilize, and I appreciate you coming on to share your insights and your passion for getting it done. Ice Cube, appreciate you, man. Much love to you. Keep on keeping on the good fight. Continue to show some courage, some faith, hope, and love for the brothers and sisters who really, really do support what you're trying to do. We get it. We understand it. We understand the criticisms from people, but some people got to get over themselves and really start supporting what you're trying to do with the contract with Black America. Thank you again.
I appreciate it, man. Salute. Later.
To you too. We'll be back with more after this. So we've heard from Ice Cube, and now let's hear from my West Coast connection because they deal right there in the West Coast where Cube, of course, originated and with NWA. The attorneys at large are with me right now, Mark Harris, as well as Timothy Allen Simon. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. We've got a lot to discuss today. Let's start right at the top. Ice Cube's making a lot of noise because of his association with the current president, Donald Trump. Apparently a deal was made, or at least some semblance of that deal going into the president's platinum plan. Cube's information about $500 billion was implemented in that plan. And that's all thanks to the meetings that his people had with Jared Kushner. Tell me what you think about this. Ice Cube is getting a lot of flack. He really says he doesn't trust any president, and that he's tired of seeing Black people on the bottom and people being on top of us.
You know what? I'm from the 213. I'm from South Central Los Angeles. And Ice Cube is somebody whose music I've listened to. I've seen him perform live. Let me tell you what I think, Kelly. At first, as a lot of people who are your viewers, I'm sure could attest to, a lot of your viewers could attest to the fact that I was shocked, first of all. I was disappointed and I was a little bit angry that he would go into the belly of the beast and seem to be, sipping the Kool-Aid of Trumpism. But as I really peeled back what Ice Cube said, I'm down with Cube. I'm down with Cube. $500 billion, $500 million, 500 trillion. We had this conversation the other day, trillions, billions, millions. It's a lot of money. Anything that's going to be included in a policy that's going to help the African-American community substantially, I think is credible. He didn't hug the president like Sammy hugged Nixon. He didn't embrace Trumpism. What he said was, the president is the president of the United States. I was asked to come and meet and give my contribution to what has now become the president's platinum plan. One of the biggest takeaways from that platinum plan is this substantial amount of money that'll be invested in the Black community. If we can believe that's actually going to happen, I'm down with Cube. I'm glad he did what he did. Timothy?
The moment I read the platinum plan, and I think I'd said this before, but I think it ended up on the editor's floor. The moment I read it, my immediate reaction was, wow, I wish that President Obama had done something like this in his second term. It had substance, it had teeth. I think it was what we were expecting. And I knew just from my past Republican, affiliations, that the president had people around him that understood the economic issues in the African-American community and the frustration that African-Americans have with the Democratic Party in terms of the enormous amount of religious support that our community gives them and what we get in return after every election. We hit the beach, we're the Marines, but the others come behind us and enjoy the spoils. I think that the Democratic Party needs to atone. I think they need to come before the African-American community and particularly business leaders and say, we've been tone deaf on this issue. We need to listen to you and we need to come. Joe Biden should have a meeting with Ice Cube today, publicly, to discuss.
You're right. And let's be clear. He met with Joe Biden's team and they actually listened to Ice Cube's plan, but then punted. They said, well, we'll wait till after the election. This is not a time for waiting. Black people need help right now, today, right now.
I've been there in those meetings. I've worked on presidential campaigns. I've been a part of an administration, as you know, and they can be very heavy-handed. They can be policy wonkish to a fault. They basically told him, hey, thanks for your input, Cube. We'll get back to you. That's not good enough. Black folks are suffering too much in this country to be hearing that. This is what Timothy Simon was just talking about, atonement. The Democrats have to stop taking the African-American community for granted. And I say this as a lifelong Democrat. The time is now, and I'm glad that Ice Cube did what he did.
And look, the bottom line is this: we are just days away from the election. The news about this may not change what people have already decided that they're going to do when they go to the polls and vote. There are long lines of people wanting to vote. But this is information that people will make them see a difference in terms of policy making, as well as implementing things. And this goes to the core of what Trump had talked about before, that he wanted to be a disruptor. He went right in, he saw a deal to help Black America, and Cube was very specific about he didn't want to be used by the Trump administration. I saw the same thing happen to CeCe Winans, who basically had to pull herself off a campaign ad because she wanted to try to help people understand we've got to fight together against COVID-19. So there is some gamemanship, there's some brinkmanship going on here within the Trump administration. But the point is, going back to Ice Cube's point, he's tired of seeing Black people on the bottom and people on top of them. It's time to move out from the bottom and start lifting it up. And that means you got to talk to everybody. So it's not lift up every voice. It's not a platinum plan. It's our plan to help ourselves.
This is an example again of FUBU, for us, by us. I completely believe in that. I agree with you. I don't care what you call it. My mother used to say, you can call me anything as long as you call me to dinner. I'm ready to be called to dinner, Kelly and Timothy. It's time for Black America to stand up. The other thing is, let's be real about this. The president of the United States is the president of the United States. I was asked in an interview a couple of weeks ago on another television station if I would meet with this president. Of course I would meet with this president. I would meet with any president. The president is the most powerful person on the planet Earth. The president has the responsibility and the capability, with the wave of his hand and the signature of his pen, to change the lives of people who I care about. So I'm proud of what Ice Cube did. As I said, I'm down with Q.
And look, Timothy, let's be clear, we can criticize the president all day long, but if we receive that call to go interview him or talk to him, what are we going to do? Say, no, Mr. President, I'm not down with you. No, you go there and talk, and thereby hopefully find a way, just like your colleague just said, to have something done that will benefit people.
Let me say in the beginning, even with this contract with Black America or the Platinum Plan, the sincerity of the administration has to be in question. Ronald Reagan said, trust, but verify. Now, with that being said, I think that African Americans have to also accept that we are the only ethnic group in America that defines our ethnicity on a partisan basis, on a political party. No other group in America is bound by their political party. We should be telling parties what to do, not parties telling us. And I think this is a pivotal moment. This is a seminal moment in terms of African-American culture, regarding a celebrity, by the way, regarding a celebrity whose record catalog and some of the content as a parent I had issues with. But be that as it may, I think it's a perfect example of how Democrats feel they got us because we're afraid of Trump. And as Charlemagne the God said, you got to come get us. Malcolm X said, someone that my dear friend, Attorney Harris, likes to quote, it's not we shall overcome, we coming over. And that's the attitude that needs to be taken in terms of this election.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
I'm talking to my West Coast Connection. When we return, we're going to talk about the two town halls last night. And we'll talk about what was said from the Trump town hall as well as the Biden town hall. That's coming up next. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that today is October 16th. It is I believe, the 25th anniversary of the Million Man March. I was there, and let's not forget what that really meant. Back then, Mark, you'll recall that the President of the United States was Bill Clinton, and people tried to denounce what Louis Farrakhan and Dr. Benjamin Chavis and other men had put together, and even the women behind the march put together to have a million men, Black men, assemble on the mall in Washington. And it's a moment that I will never forget. And it's a moment that I think, looking back upon reflection, we should be mindful of the fact that we have more work to do.
Kelly, I was there as well. I got in a plane, went to Washington, D.C. It was one of the most amazing experiences of my life. There was not a whole lot of fanfare. There was not a whole lot of protocol. There wasn't a whole lot of pecking order, hierarchy. It was just a million Black men being called to come and atone for some of the things that we've done as Black men in this country. It was an amazing moment in United States history, and I'm so proud that I was a part of that. I don't know what it would take to get an equal movement in today's society, but I'm very, very proud of the fact that 25 years ago today, I was standing right there with you, Kelly, in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and the president you worked for, Bill Clinton, said we should not denigrate this. This is a good thing. Uh, and Timothy, how far have we come from that point?
Well, I was also honored to be there with my two sons. It was a day that we will remember, and I'm passing down to my children and grandchildren. I think it was a monumental time in American history to see this many African American men come together in the nation's capital, a capital that we built in our enslavement, and to have a day full of nothing but joy and love and promoting of our better selves through the process. We've come a long way, but we've also regressed in areas as well as a nation. And yes, I think the omnibus crime bill and police conduct and poverty have led to that. But the fight is not over. And my favorite Langston Hughes poem, Mother to Son, life will not be a crystal stair. And we have to continue to improve our performance and not be so dependent on government in terms of the results or outcomes of our lives and our families' lives.
My two brothers from the West Coast Connection, love them dearly. Attorneys Mark Harris and Timothy Allen Simon, thank you both. And as we continue to move on and march on, let us keep doing just that, keep people accountable and keep ourselves accountable and responsible for improving our communities and thereby the world. Appreciate you, brothers. Have a great weekend.
Appreciate you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
We're back with more after this. And welcome back. I want to thank all of the guests who appeared on tonight's program, especially Ice Cube for stopping by to set the record straight and to promote his contract for Black America. Certainly, we all need to be looking into that. Make sure you check it out over the weekend. In addition to that, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to watch. I appreciate each and every one of you. As always, in my final word, hopefully we've been righted, ignited, and united to keep spreading not fear, not hatred, not violence, but love, freedom, and peace. Good night. God bless.
It's easy to find if you're listening. The color of light isn't red, black, or white, but it's crimson. We all bleed the same. If you don't feel the groove, it's all right. Just give it time, give it time. Come on, y'all. Get on board. Mankind won't survive if our hearts beat inside a hateful rhythm. You see, love isn't bought, but comes with a price of forgiveness, and we all bleed the same. Yeah. If you don't feel it now, just wait. It's coming on, the love train. Just give it time, give it time. Get on board. That means you and you, get on board.